Coming out this podcast, just a man doing the best he can with what he got. And we back. This is the fourth episode in our Tennessee Governor's Deep Dive. And today we're talking about somebody who is a little different from the other candidates we looked at. Dr. Lauren Pinckston. That's right, doctor. Put some respect on her name. And the first difference is obvious. She's running as an independent, not a Republican, not a Democrat, an independent. And let me just put y'all up on some game about me. I am an independent. A lot of you folks were rushed to call me a Democrat. Folks on the left were rushed to call me a Republican. But the honest to God truth is I am a independent. And I will have y'all notice during this whole section where I'm doing this deep dive into Tennessee gubernatorial candidates, not once have I told you who to vote for. Haven't done it. I haven't even told you who I'm voting for, right? Now, I will eventually tell you if you want me to. I'll tell you who I'm supporting, who I'm voting for, but that has not been the focus of this series. I'm just giving you guys the information. I'm actually doing the research. And a lot of folks love to say, I've done my research. And you haven't. You haven't did anything. You haven't looked at these candidates' websites. You haven't digged into their issues or looked at their plans. That's what I'm doing. I'm just presenting the information to you. Because saying something sounds good isn't a policy. A goal isn't a plan. And a plan without numbers is not a budget. Now, who is Lauren Pinckston? She is not a career politician. According to her biography, Pinckston is a seventh generation Tennessean who grew up in rural West Tennessee. She earned her undergraduate degree from Freed-Hardeman University and later earned her PhD in International Family and Community Studies from Clemson. And that Freed-Hardeman part means a lot to me, and I may talk about that later, but there's nothing more Tennessean than Freed-Hardeman. She taught elementary school. She lived and worked overseas. We got that in common. She worked on anti-human trafficking efforts. She taught at Lipscomb University and worked on businesses and organizations designed to create employment opportunity for trafficking survivors and other vulnerable populations. And let me say, man, actually reading Dr. Pinkston's biography, she may be one of the best persons among us. She's a legit figure in fighting anti-human trafficking organizations. Like, she's been putting in the work. Lipscomb University documented her work years before she ran for governor, including her research with the Freedom Business Alliance and work developing businesses employing trafficking survivors in Southeast Asia. So when she says she has 15 years of experience dealing with trafficking, workforce development, and nonprofit work, there's actually a resume behind that claim. Now, let's go to our campaign. The website. First impressions. Man, look, man, this may be the most stripped down campaign website I've looked at so far. This has to be a templated website. And it feels like that. It feels like the goal was just to make a functional website. But you're not opening up this website and thinking, oh my God, somebody put $100,000 into building this campaign website. It's not, man. But beneath that, the messaging of the campaign becomes pretty clear. Pinkston's argument is basically that Tennessee politics has become so consumed by partisan identity and ideological warfare that government has stopped concentrating on boring everyday problems. And a majority of the problems that we have are boring, right? We get caught up in the culture war stuff and sensationalizing that, but that's kind of the easy stuff. and it generally always focuses on like a minority population. Same thing like with the trans and gay stuff. That's like a minority of people. So it's easy to focus on that because that group doesn't have that much power. But Dr. Pinckston is saying, hey, man, let's focus on the hard, everyday, boring stuff like housing, groceries, school, childcare, healthcare, infrastructure. Those aren't sexy social media culture war issues, but they're the stuff that determines whether people can actually afford to live somewhere. And I understand the appeal of that argument because politics have gotten to the point where Republicans and Democrats sometimes act like the Crips and the Bloods. I see it on my post. Vote red, vote blue, red team, blue team. And I'm sitting here asking that, yo, where's the policy? Like, what does this cost? Like, does this work? I don't care what color your jersey is. I just want to know what you're going to do for the team in general. And the team is Tennessee, right? Pinkston's campaigns argue that independents represent a huge group in Tennesseans who aren't being represented by either party. There's clearly evidence nationally and in Poland that a lot of Americans identify as independents, myself included. But we need to be careful when somebody says independents outnumber Republicans and Democrats in Tennessee. Tennessee has historically operated differently from states that formally register everybody as Republican, Democrats, or independents. So you can't simply pull Tennessee voter registrations and say, oh, here's X number of Republicans or X number of Democrats or independents. That's the way it can go in some states, but not really here. But let's get into our platform. Here's where I actually have to correct my own first impression. If you only look at the main campaign page, Dr. Pinkston's platform looks like a collection of broad goals. And if you recall, that's one of my criticisms of Marsha Blackburn's website. She lists goals, not plans. But when you dig into the full issue section, there's considerably more policy details than the homepage suggests. And definitely more policy details than Marsha Blackburn. And that's important. I'm going to criticize politicians when they deserve criticism. And I'm going to correct myself when I get information wrong as well, because that's just my good old journalism background. So let's take a look. One of her key issues is affordability. And much like Jerry Green, she wants to kill the grocery tax. Pinkston wants Tennessee to eliminate the grocery tax. Tennessee currently charges a 4% state sales tax on food and food ingredients, plus any local taxes. So eliminating the state portion would be a real tax cut to people. Like you would see prices go down in Kroger, Walmart, Aldi's, and whatever else you shop at. And I like that concept. But here's where I always go. Show me the money. Because Tennessee collects revenue from its taxes, like everybody does, right? Taxes is how a state collects its revenue. So if you eliminate this tax, something has to replace that revenue. Like spending has to decrease somewhere else, or the state has to decide like it's going to absorb that loss. And Pinkston actually does offer an answer. Her platform says she wants to close what she calls the affiliate business tax loopholes and believes additional economic activity in Tennessee's more than 40 border counties could help offset the loss in grocery tax revenue. That's a mechanism. But now I want to know the next level. Like, how much does eliminating the grocery tax cost us annually? Like, how much money would closing these loopholes actually generate? Like, how much additional revenue do you realistically expect to get from border counties? That's the spreadsheet I want to see. A lot of these campaigns make promises, but they don't give numbers. And if I'm being honest, the only campaign I've seen that actually have given numbers so far is Jerry Green. But moving on, education and vouchers. Pinckston opposes Tennessee's Education Freedom Scholarship Program and wants money directed towards public education and early childhood education. I agree with that. And there's an important point about vouchers that always get lost. And it should be an obvious point, to be honest with you. I myself am against the voucher program because a voucher doesn't magically create another seat at a high performing private school. You run into the same problem you're having now. If you're telling me that there's an underperforming school in a low income neighborhood and you're going to give every family in that low income neighborhood a voucher to go to that private school over there that has a great education, the problem is there's not enough seat for everybody to get there. So they get to be selective. And not to mention that private institution gets to raise their prices. It happens all the damn time, right? The state's own rules say admissions is still controlled by the private school. So getting a scholarship does not guarantee that the school you want will accept your child. There is a capacity limit. So if you got 500 families trying to get into a school with 50 available seats, how do you handle that? Are you going to make 450 additional seats? Probably not. My position on education has always been you need to raise the floor. You're only as good as the worst performing public school in your area. And if I got to give money, I'd rather give money to the public school system rather than a private institution. That's me. Why isn't this school performing well? Dig into that. Then how do we fix it? And there's obvious answers: teachers, class size, facilities, administration, transportation. Poverty is a big issue, right? Special education resources is an issue. I don't think just throwing money at a private institution in a neighborhood that already has means is going to fix the problem. And Pinckston also proposed reducing excessive benchmark testing, like increasing teacher salary, which is a strong proponent in that. You got to increase these teacher salaries and putting teachers more directly into education policy discussions. And this should be an obvious thing, man. If you're going to talk about education, educators should be deciding more so than career politicians or even parents. Expertise has to matter, right? Also, you got to expand technical education, which Dr. Pinckston is talking about. And you got to limit phones and screens in schools. And that's a mixed bag, but I get what she's saying, all right? Like that's significantly more specific than what I saw on her front page. Like dead ass. Once again, that website, buddy, woo, ain't doing you no favors. All right, moving right along to her next issue, which is childcare. I'm a firm believer, especially in a state where you guys claim to be pro-life and you're going to regulate a woman's body and tell her she has to have a baby no matter what. You better have a solution for childcare. And here's another interesting proposal. Pinckston wants to redirect increased spending on education freedom scholarships towards early childhood education and expanded affordable childcare opportunities, including incentives for businesses to offer on-site daycare. Now, that's where my budget questions come back. How many child slots can you make? What is the cost per slot? Who qualifies? Are we subsidizing providers, parents, businesses? Like, what's the reoccurring cost 5 years from now? And again, I'm not asking those questions because the goal is bad. I actually totally agree with this. I'm asking because governors have budgets and every candidate should eventually have to answer that. Now, her next topic is healthcare. Pinkston's healthcare section is also more detailed than Marsha Blackburn's. Seriously. She proposes expanding preventative care for adults ages 20 to 40 using telehealth care, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and EMTs. She wants to target prescription drug costs by going after pharmacy benefit managers, or what they call PBMs, I'm sorry, and expanding direct pricing pharmacy models. Sure. I mean, that's an option. And this is not some imaginary issue. Tennessee is already fighting over PBM regulation. The state's Fair RX Act has generated general lawsuits from major pharmacy benefit companies, including Express Scripts. So when politicians talk about healthcare middlemen, that's basically what they're talking about, like PBMs. It's one of the places that you got to look. And Pinckston also proposes stronger investigations into Medicare and Medicaid fraud. And yes, when we talk about fraud, we generally talk about SNAP, but we really need to be looking at Medicare and Medicaid. And yes, waste, fraud, and improper payments are legit places for the government to look for savings. And I'm totally on board with that. But another Tennessee healthcare problem she highlights that deserves attention is maternity care deserts. March of Dimes data found that 32.6 of Tennessee counties qualify as maternity care deserts. Yeah, that's roughly 1/3 of the counties in this state. So when somebody in rural Tennessee has to travel significant distances just to access maternity care, that's not a Republican problem. That's not a Democrat problem. That's a Tennessee infrastructure problem. And I keep saying this, man, you have to have better infrastructure in Tennessee. Moving right along to her data center proposal. Now, this one caught my attention. Pinckston wants a statewide moratorium on new data center constructions until Tennessee establishes statewide rules. Now, not necessarily a ban forever on data centers, just a pause on new construction while Tennessee establishes standards for things like water usage, proximity to schools, and public institutions. And this is not a theoretical issue. As somebody living in Memphis right now, this hits close to home. And this may surprise people. I myself have protested against the XAI data center that's basically in South Memphis, but I am not against data centers. I work in IT and I do see the need for data centers. I want data centers to go up. My problem is having a data center so close to people. Have you guys ever seen a data center? First thing, it's noisy as hell. It's noisy. It's a lot of heat. And the reason why these data centers are being put close to water is they're using water cooling. And in the case of XAI, you got gas being put out in the population, polluting the population. So until you have regulations, yes, you should put a stop, not a ban, but a stop. And Tennessee has a lot of sparsely populated areas that you can put data centers up. I do believe if you're going to put these data centers up, you're going to have to, for one, have your own plan for energy. Bring your own energy. You should not be leeching off Tennessee's old ass energy grid in no way possible. Second of all, how much money are you going to give us? We need some money. So money got to be given. And third of all, you can't have it near no people. Like Nashville has already been fighting over data center development near the Nashville Zoo. And metro officials have considered moratoriums and new zoning rules because data centers can have significant impact on electricity demands, water, generators, and the noise. They loud as hell, guys. Now, that's something where we're going to have to talk about more, right? in Tennessee? Like, what do we want? Especially even in Marsha Blackburn's plan. She's talking about being the crypto capital of the United States. You're going to need data centers for that because AI ain't going nowhere, guys. It's the new big thing. Cloud computing ain't going nowhere. Data centers ain't going nowhere. And I'm not anti-technology. Hell, I'm an IT guy. That's right. I'm cloud certified, security plus. I work in IT right now. I understand exactly why we need that infrastructure. But if $1 billion company comes into Tennessee and it requires the citizens of Tennessee to give up their water, their electricity, then I don't know if it's worth it. Right? And Pinckston's platform specifically says Tennessee ratepayers should not be responsible for grid upgrades primarily benefiting large data centers. And I agree. Like, if you're coming into Tennessee, you better make our grid better than when you left it, which pivots to her energy platform. Pinckston isn't running on some simple, renewable, energy's good, fossil fuels bad messaging. Her energy platform calls for a modernization of Tennessee's electric grid. And I've been saying this for, decades, bro. The energy grid in Memphis for MLG and W, if I'm not mistaken, the last time it had like a major upgrade was in 1914. Or was that when it was made? Anyway it goes, man, you need to modernize our electric grid. She also proposed protecting the TVA from privatization, which I actually agree with, and expanding nuclear power, which, yes, more nuclear power. We need more. Yes. Again, the next question becomes, how much is it going to cost? Seriously, that's what how much is it going to cost, right? She has an infrastructure plan. She also supports studying passenger rail from Memphis to Bristol, and Nashville to Chattanooga. Public transportation in the South has always been a weird one because when I lived in Japan, I primarily depended on public transportation. But in the South, man, you kind of need a car to get anywhere, all right? And she wants infrastructure like impact assessments before like permits are issued for major developments. And that's good, man. Like, I say this, if you're going to have public transportation, that doesn't mean people are going to use it. So like, I would love to have a train system across the United States, to be honest with you. But just because you have that doesn't mean people are going to use it. And if they ain't going to use it, don't waste your money on that. And then that goes to her workers and jobs position. She also supports union employers trade school partnerships. And that's a major deal, man. Everybody keeps talking about we need more plumbers and electricians. Like, who's going to train them? She also supports expanded apprenticeships. She also proposes addressing what economists call the benefits cliff. That's when somebody receiving assistance gets a raise at work, which is a good thing, but loses much assistance when they get that raise. So then they're financially worse. That's terrible incentive design. And people talk about this, but nobody really wants to address it. That's that whole, it costs more for me to get off welfare argument that people like to make. If somebody gets a raise, government policy shouldn't effectively punish them for making more money. Like, seriously, you should wean them off Uncle Sugar, right? To make them more financially off. Which moves on to agriculture. Her agriculture platform includes expanding farm-to-table tax exemptions, helping connect retiring farmers to younger Tennesseans who can't afford farmland, voluntary conservation initiatives for private landowners, and attempts to protect farmland from consolidation. And this is where you can see Pinckston trying to build a platform that doesn't fit perfectly into a traditional left or right box. You have labor organizations over here, nuclear power over here, no state income tax, kill the grocery tax, environmental conservation, farm protection, more child care, government accountability, data center restrictions. That's pretty much the entire thesis of her independent campaign. So there's one question remaining. There are plans, but my question is, like, where is the comprehensive fiscal plan? Because I see an increase in teachers' pay, childhood incentives and investments, infrastructure, like passenger and rail exploration. You got grid modernization, rural healthcare incentives, and possibly less revenue from eliminating the grocery tax. And I also see proposed savings in revenues offsets. I see that. But eventually those numbers need to meet up with each other. So once again, I need a spreadsheet, right? Where are we going to get this extra revenue? Like, what are we going to cut? Are we going to get more federal money? Are we getting more state money? Or what's the reoccurring revenue? Because that's the part of the campaign I think we don't demand enough. We don't tell where we're getting the money from. Like, just don't tell me what you want Tennessee to look like when you're finished. Show me how you're going to build it. And that's why Pinckston is interesting to me, right? Pinkston's campaign is basically making a bet. And she's betting on Tennesseans being tired of having to pay for a Republican package or a Democrat package. But I ain't gonna lie, man. I feel like Tennesseans are ingrained in this gang culture and not gonna really listen. I don't know. I hope they do. But Pinckston herself acknowledged that reality in her fundraising pitch, saying she doesn't have a built-in party donor network, and that matters. But her resume is real. Like, her anti-trafficking work is documented. She's a real G out here in these streets. Her campaign policy platforms is considerably more detailed than our homepage makes it out to appear. And she's definitely more detailed than anything Marsha Blackburn has thrown at me. And several other platforms she's identifying, like maternal care deserts and PBM regulations, data center infrastructure, school choice capacity, and the Tennessee grocery tax, are real policy questions, are being backed by actual data. That doesn't mean every proposal that she's making is going to work, but it is something worth investigating. Because later in this series, we're going to put these platforms beside each other. Like, not the personalities, not who Trump likes, not who has a D beside their name, not who has an R beside their name, not who's an independent. We're going to put policy against each other. Like, what are you proposing? What does it cost? Who's going to pay for it? Right? Because that's actually what a governor does. And let me just say this. I truly feel like whoever wins, and if it's not Dr. Lauren Pinckston, whoever wins should definitely pull her in the administration. The work this woman has done alone and her resume is worth making her an advisor, and her ideas are solid. Once again, ideas are not plans, especially not a fiscal plan. But damn it, no matter what, Dr. Lauren Pinckston, you have my undying respect. All right. My electricity is off right now, by the way, guys, but I'm going to continue to do this podcast because I got battery operated stuff. But quick question. What can we eat in America? Honest question. What can we eat? We've had a lettuce recall. We have a jalapeno recall. More recently, we got a blueberry recall. And we've had recalls involving like beef and plenty of other foods. Seriously, at this point, walking through the grocery store is a game of Russian roulette, a game of chance. Damn near everything in the grocery store may kill you. It's a good possibility. Seriously, anything you touch in an American grocery store may kill you, right? You've had over 100 FDA regulated recalls. That's not even including like the safety alerts and reports this year, right? But all you guys want to talk about is wokeness and illegals. Illegals that you claim was picking our food. Now you got the illegals out and all our food is going to hell. Why is that? Seriously, why is that? And the answer is because you guys don't believe in government until you need it. And that's the dirty secret about government. Government is a thankless job. And unless you are actually in government, you don't know what government does. It becomes this nameless, faceless entity that you can dog on and trash until you really need it. And right now, what you need is efficient government. You're dealing with boo-boo letters because you don't have efficient government. You guys might recall this whole department called the Doge Department. It was headed by this guy called Elon Musk, right? The president's biggest donor. Arguably, the shadow president at one point in time, that gave all this money to Donald Trump. And he created this thing called the Department of Government Efficiency, right? And what it was supposed to do was supposed to cut costs and waste and fraud in the government and allow us to get more money. and supposedly it was so much money found that we was going to get refunds checks. Now, I never got mine, but I'm assuming you got yours, right? Your Doge refund check. Now, when he was going around cutting the budget, well, he wasn't cutting the budget. He hired teenagers. That's right. 18 to 25-year-olds to go around cutting the budget. 18 to 25-year-olds who actually had no experience in government, by the way. But when he tasked those kids to cut funds, one of the biggest places he found that could be cut was this government institution called the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, along with the USDA. Now, what these organizations do, if you guys don't know, these organizations regulate food. Yep, they regulate, they inspect food. But one of the places he found fraud, and his teenagers found fraud, was the fact that we had too many inspectors. So guess what they did? They cut him. They fired him. Them folks lost their jobs. They lost their jobs. We cut food inspectors. Now, once again, when you say, hey man, we have umpteen number of inspectors in the government, everybody instantly goes to, oh, well, that's terrible, man. We can cut that. The government is wasting money. We don't need that many inspectors. Until you have boo-boo lettuce and jalapenos and blueberries and worms in your meat. You know who's supposed to stop that? Inspectors. But that's a function of having efficient government and knowing what government does. So as we sit here in America, as I get ready to go to the grocery store later and wonder, like, what the hell can I buy without dying? Just know that government is more than you think it is. And just maybe, all these government workers actually make your life better. Yeah. I want to give you guys a level of transparency while I'm doing this podcast. It is Saturday, August the 22nd, 5:45 p.m. And I'm sitting here doing this podcast right now in the dark. No power, baby. None whatsoever. In the dark. Now, lucky for me, my laptop has a battery, and because I do audio field recording for independent films, I have a battery-powered audio interface that I'm recording in right now. Look at me. Look at me. I'm able to continue to do my podcast because all my stuff is battery power, which means I only got maybe about 2 more hours to do this podcast. But it's bringing up something interesting I'm thinking about. And that's infrastructure. We talk so much about infrastructure investing. And hey, man, how we supposed to invest in our infrastructure and invest in our future? And I'm sitting here in the year our Lord, 2026, in the dark, in this quote unquote luxury apartment I'm paying for with no goddamn electricity. No, none whatsoever. Refrigerator's off, no air, because the electricity is off. In a state that wants data centers, I'm sitting here with no electricity. Come on, guys. Seriously. In a state where you guys are worried about transgender athletes and drag queens reading to kids, I'm sitting here with no electricity. A lot of y'all don't know this. I lived in Japan for 12 years. 12 years lived in Japan. Went over there, lived. I was an actor, model, musician, teacher. Yes, did all that. Also worked in IT. Long resume. But in 12 years, do you know how many times the electricity went out? None. Not one damn time was there a case that the electricity went off in my apartment in Japan. If the electricity went out, it was because we flipped a breaker, right? And that's because I lived in an older apartment. So if I had too many things going on at the same time, if I had the microwave and the hairdryer on, bam, maybe the breaker would flip and the electricity would go out. But never was it a time during an earthquake, a thunderstorm, a tsunami, that the power went out. But here I am right now in the richest country in the world, sitting in the dark. Make that make sense? The answer is it doesn't. So my question to anybody in Tennessee, especially when you look at this upcoming gubernatorial race, when are we going to focus on the real things? Things that help everybody in Tennessee? Because so very often we focus on these culture war issues that really don't matter, right? They don't matter to a majority of us. A lot of these issues that we claim to care about really don't affect us broadly, right? Seriously, a lot of the issues that we focusing on only matter if you're sticking your nose somewhere it doesn't belong. That includes abortion, gay rights, drag queens. A lot of y'all don't even really care about this. Like, I'll make this perfectly clear. I don't think a lot of y'all really care about abortion. You don't. You don't really care. And the only way you could care is if you were sticking your nose somewhere it doesn't belong. But in general, you don't care. You don't. Who among you have went to work or to church or to the grocery store or conversed with your friends and asked them, hey man, how many abortions have you had? You don't, because you don't care. It's not an important thing. And I ask people this question all the time because it comes to me that a lot of people think that abortion is killing babies. And you don't even really believe that because there's nothing that you can benefit from while being pregnant. You can't deduct them from your taxes. You can't ride in the HOV lane, right? Should there be protections for women who are pregnant? Of course, there should be protection for women in general. When it comes to like abortion, sometimes it's medically needed. Like sometimes to protect the life of a mother, you have to have an early termination of a pregnancy. Do you believe that's killing a baby? And if that's your position, then you're comfortable saying that a woman's life ain't shit. Like you're comfortable saying that a potential life in a woman is worth more than an actual woman's life. And I'm not comfortable saying that. But whatever the decision is, I don't think the state or me should have any say in that. If a family has to deal with the uncomfortable reality that possibly having a child is going to kill that woman, I don't want to be involved in that, nor should the state be involved with that. Likewise, when kids are here, there's a backlog of kids who want to be adopted who have no families in foster care. I don't care. But these are just thoughts of a guy sitting in the dark. A guy sitting in the dark wondering, when is electricity going to come on? Yep, electricity costs going up every year. MLG and W raised my electricity up 2% this year. And I can't even get a stable electric signal off our shitty 1914 grid. And 9 out of 10, man, this electricity cost is going to go up again next year because you got XAI and data centers. But here I am, over an hour in the dark. Kind of makes you wonder, huh? Anyway, that's the Common Knowledge Podcast, updated weekly. Thank you guys for rocking with me. We're going to continue to do our deep dive into the Tennessee gubernatorial candidates, and we're going to look at platforms. And thank you guys for rocking with me. You guys be safe. And if you're like me, hopefully your power comes on. Peace.